Welcome back to the SCC here in North America. It's Finch and Gormizer on the desk. Been having a great time here with you so far, Gora, so I'm looking forward to, keeping that train rolling. And, of course, we shall be able to, I'm thinking here with this next game, Fishies versus Winter Dogs. Should be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch this one. Fishies, again, kind of surprised me last week. Although, I would say maybe based on what we just saw, it was Average Joe's surprising me last week more than Fishies. They ended up coming out on that one. I think it was a 2-1 where they found that victory. So very interesting to see what they have in store for them today. Again, this is the team that when I look at it, it is a very solid team. But of all of the teams in the NASCC, this is the one that feels the most challenger circuit to me, if that makes sense. And it sounds almost insulting to say it that way, but it feels like a team that has players that are still in that position of room to grow, that are becoming a little more full-fledged as a team. And if they can do really well this phase, they really are a team that can start contending with potentially the bottom tiers of the SBL, right? But it is that track right now where they are still in that contending phase, not quite at the punching up phase.
Certainly still contending. Sturdy Artisans then, looking like a strong team, sitting 2-0 now. You saw Fishies and Winter Dog sitting right there in the middle of the pack, Gore. So we're about to see some clarity coming as a result of this. Either those teams are going to be moving up or they're going to be staying right there kind of clumped up in the middle. So excited to see. So let's talk a little bit then about this Fishies squad here first, Gormizer. In particular, Kierme in that jungle role for them, what he's been able to do for this squad, because I think he's going to have to be a bit of a leader for this team. I know he's got a little bit of veteran presence on this team with Oceans there as well, but I think he's going to have to kind of become that voice for them and really lead from the jungle.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch Kierme throughout this. I think Kierme has been I don't think the phrase fresh take in the jungle, because they're not necessarily doing something that is all of a sudden different, right? Sino just played ESET in the jungle. That is a fresh take for the jungle. What Kierme does, though, is play the role to a T and plays it very well here. I'm actually really excited to watch it because last week, and I can say this now that we've seen 2 sets with it, I think Ishtao can create a certain presence from what we got to see in week number 1. But Ishtao in the jungle was not going to be, I think, as challenging as who he's going to have to go up against today up in Andy, who has literally won a world championship in that role, right? So Kierme is going to have to kind of have their mettle tested so far today. But watching the synergy that they had with their team throughout all of last week's, a lot of good plays matching up with Nehu early on to really cause some distress, as well as with Oceans as they got into that 3v3 and towards that late game. It was very exciting to watch the transition here from Kierme and that play style transition from early to mid to late, and kind of how they rode that jungle curve was very, very fun. I'm excited to see what gods they pull out. We saw some Erlong, we saw some Tsukiyomi. I want to know if there's a little bit more. I know there's a few more at least in the tank there, but I'm interested for anything exciting as well.
Yeah, they played a really set-up heavy style out of the jungle, and then they put sort of a big cannon on Nehu, like we saw with the Kukul Khan, as that follow-up. So if that's going to be the same combo from this time, they're going to really make sure they're executing, because they're going up against a really strong team in Winter Dogs on the other side, and in particular, Andy, with all that experience coming out of the jungle, I think, not going to be susceptible to that same strategy. He's seen those kind of things from the very, very best in the world, right? With the experience that he's had up until this point. So they're going to need something different if they're going to want to shock him. And we saw Andy last time be real aggressive. I don't know if we're going to see that from him every time going forward, Gore, but it's a good look on him, so I'd like to see it from him here again.
And again, you looking at this, they did end up losing their set last week, but it was up against a team that has a lot of big names on it as well, right? So there's a lot of stacked rosters here in NA, and I think for Fishies, this is another one to try and overcome, right? You did Average Joe's last week. If you can do it against Winter Dogs, that's impressive. But Andenster, like you said, he's willing to pull out. Again, talking about fresh takes, Ares in the jungle, things like this that maybe aren't necessarily brand spanking new, but they're absolutely something we don't get to see too often. And that kind of dynamic, that change, and I think transition is something Fishies are going to have to learn to overcome, because there's a lot of teams in North America, and I think what we're going to see in the Pro League as well, that are really willing to pull out all the stops, anything that is necessary to catch you off guard. And if that means Andy in the jungle is going to be playing something you don't know how to play against, you're going to have to adapt really fast.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the trouble here for this Fishies team, is reacting to that, because they're going to come at it with a bit more of a traditional style where their cards are a bit more face-up on the side of Fishies against a team on the other side of Winter Dogs who you know are not afraid to play something a bit unconventional, but certainly aggressive, right? Well, no matter what he's doing, Ares or Thanatos, those last two picks we saw from him last week, he was looking to try and get into the middle of the action and really mix things up, so you got to make sure you're ready for that on the side of Fishies. Really, this whole team, I'm looking at the solo lane as well as being a big matchup too in this one going forward. There's a whole bunch of places to keep our eyes on. So let's see what they're going to be equipped with as we go into the picks and bans for game number 1. Winter Dogs will be in that first pick position. And Gord, let's start talking about what we want to see in these bans. And we saw a lot of really good stuff get through. Cthulhu, Aphrodite, Tsukuyomi, some of these top tier picks, they're going to need to get adjusted, I think, coming into these ones and make sure that they're not letting too good of stuff come through.
Yeah, I feel like Guan and Set are pretty easy knockouts up there as well. Like, they're too solid as of right now. Scylla is the one, like, if you're banning the Morgan over there on Winter Dogs, I wouldn't be surprised if Scylla is either first pick or first ban, things like that, because we've seen her take a lot of presence. Same thing with Yanis. Last week, a lot of presentation on him and kind of focus on him, and then today, so far, not a lot coming out for him. I'm really excited to see it, though, because I think mid, like you had highlighted, Nehu and Kirmi, that matchup, but really going up against Crimson, someone who at this point is a really highly touted in mid laner, I think is going to have a lot of presence there. Winter Dogs, whatever they get in mid lane is going to be pretty deadly, and as of right now, the lack of mid bans means that he's going to have the pick of the litter, at least in the top 3.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they do try and prioritize him. Crimson is someone who's impressed a lot of people with what he's been able to show recently when they made their run towards Worlds with some of those other Xbox boys and kind of made it onto PC and really impressed a lot of people. So I'm excited to see what he can do here in the SCC. So far, I've been happy with it. But yeah, no one's really all that surprised to see Giannis get banned, I don't think. Such a strong pick right now. But what has made it through and almost irredeemably so is Tiamat Gore, and I don't see how we've made it to the point where she's being just allowed right on through, but I gotta assume that's a mid lane pick for Crimson, right? That's where we're seeing her do a lot of her work.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what she can do. Yesterday, we got to see her for one game and one game only, and it was more of a setup, but Joshi got to play it there in mid and really did, like, it was kind of outshone by the KDAs of everyone around them, but it was because they were always being the one that is getting that initial damage, some of the lockdown for them. It's also interesting to see because it adds a different aspect to some of the sieging. We've seen those minions run down mid, which when you're doing a 4-1 split, all of a sudden it helps the one when there's some minions hanging out in mid with them to allow them to push a little harder. Just think better new WoW minions, honestly, at that point, to really allow them to maybe siege things down. But look, it's how much weight can you carry on your own. When I see Athena Cthulhu on the other side, it's just, you know, you're a pitcher that's throwing maybe a close to perfect game here for Tiamat, and then all of a sudden you get two people who are known for their excellent batting average on the other side. Like, it's a scary thought right here.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'd argue these are the 3 of the Guardians I least want to see in any given game that I'm in. Tiamat, Athena, and Cthulhu all wrapped up into one unacceptable package here for Fishies and Winter Dogs. So Athena, we know how powerful she's going to be, but I'm thinking she won't be solo for this game with that Cthulhu locked in. I'm wondering if this is going to be an Athena jungle, perhaps, or even if we'll see her somewhat boringly taken back to her original role over there in support. But now with Odin getting locked in, that's making me think it's less likely. Or you want to make sense of this 3 frontline selection for Fishies, or maybe we just wait till we see what they end up putting it.
Man, that is, you know, it is so flexible as a draft. Like, Cthulhu, so in my mind, Cthulhu is solo through and through, right? Like, you almost have to throw him over there. Odin jungle can work. I don't like it that much. I think it falls off too hard to really like sustain itself into the late game the way you need some of these junglers to, especially when you're going up against something like Tsukuyomi. That feels like a really bad bet. Maybe you're betting on your ability to out DPS Tsukuyomi early on, maybe have a better early game than him and shut him down, but I don't know. I don't think I bet my hedges on that one. Instead, I think you get the Athena in the jungle. You try to ride a curve a little bit later. Odin maybe over there into the support, somewhere where I personally like to see him, maybe better at helping lock down this Apollo. But it's also interesting to see it because Odin, look, I mean, last year, the big first month, 2 months that we had Odin, like, he was incredibly big. He did get a lot of buffs in the offseason going into Season 7, though, and then got a lot of nerfs afterward. But he fell off really hard, really fast. I don't know how well, like, he sits in a comfortable spot right now, but I don't know what he's doing against this comp. except for the fact like Tsukiyomi, Tiamat technically don't have anything that immediately gets them out of that cage. Apollo doesn't have anything that immediately gets them out of that cage without having to invest maybe something a little heavy.
Yeah, not going to be easy for them to deal with it as Merlin comes in. Persephone, Morrigan, Scylla, Giannis, all banned. That's a lot of top-tier mages banned, but still not quite sure if we come all the way down to Merlin, who's dropped off a bit from some of his old heights, but this guy can still put out the hurt, man. If you build him right, a lot of the times you see these rods get forced early or something like that. He can shred on objectives and in team fights, so while maybe I'm a little bit surprised to see him, not so surprised. And Aurelish, also not a traditionally popular pick, but where is she going to be going here at this point with this draft? Because we've already got Tsukiyomi, we've already got Tiamat. Where are they putting all these pieces?
Yeah, it's an interesting shuffle because, like you said, like, look, I look at this draft and Finch, there's no tank, like, period. Serket, I guess, fills that role to an extent. We've seen it happen. And if you think you're going up against Odin, honestly, Serket might be one of your better bets just because he's going to be a little squishy early on. You can really, really knock him down. But it's just such a juggle right now. I wonder if it's a Merlin solo? Tiamat must be solo. I don't know. It's so weird to try and divide that one. The mages can go anywhere. I think everyone else has kind of a grip on where they want to go. And now with Chang'e locked in, like, Finch, I just don't... no, that's mid. Never mind. I figured out that team. Fishies, you make sense to me now. We figured out your chess pieces. Winter Dogs are the interesting ones. And there's a lot of moving pieces, but again, a lot of squishy targets on that side. If they don't win, I would argue maybe fast, I think the tanky nature of Fishies is going to overcome them. Athena, Cthulhu, Odin, they're just going to start surviving fights longer than them, and all of a sudden, Winter Dogs are going to fall apart.
Yeah, and they're backed up by a ton of sustain. Chang'e, obviously, but even Cupid, to a certain extent, can provide some healing for the squad, so Winter Dogs are going to deal with that as well. Tsukiyomi certainly could go solo. We have seen it, but they've got some flexibility with this Winter Dogs draft. I'm just thinking that of these, maybe you want Serket in support, and then you just kind of figure out with Tiamat and Tsukiyomi what you're doing from there. But we'll get all our answers to those burning questions. Game number 1 is starting right now.
Thanks, guys, and to give a big old A to those cues that you've been asking, we have Aquarius here in the soul lane with Tiamat. Tsukiyomi is going to be going into the jungle. Erupt Crimson on Merlin mid, and Serket Apollo jumping into this dual lane. A very interesting comp here from the Winter Dogs with no traditional tank.
Yeah, it is very interesting. They will have a very strong front line just because of the scales passive that Tiamat's able to have. That's going to be very easy to leverage. We could expect them to go for a more bruiser build as well. We know that Tank Serket has worked in the past, so it still should be able to find some value here today. But the main concern for me is how good is their engage, really, the Winter Dogs, that is? How really are they starting these fights once we're looking at true 5-on-5 engagements? Is it always going to have to be a coerce from Gamma, or a taunt rather? Is it always going to be a jump-in knock-up from Tiamat? Because they really don't have any great tools to start their fights. We might be looking at a tried-and-true counter-engaged team.
Yeah, I think if Winter Dogs want to engage at all, it kind of has to be Aquarius, right? Like, the only one I can think of going in except for Aquarius is maybe Yuji on this Tsukiyomi. Gets those piercing moonlights off, separates the team fight, starts off with some damage, and then the rest of the team comes in. But I gotta agree with you, it's probably gonna be on the back of Kirmi coming in with a coerce or chronic ulting. And actually, Big Yuji might already be in some trouble as he's taking a bunch of damage in the mid lane. Kirmi potentially looking for something, but they decide to let him be. Big Yuji barely escapes with his life.
Yeah, let that be a lesson to all the junglers out there. Do not tussle with a Chang'e at level 2 when they have Conduit Gem. They're swinging for 100 damage per ability consistently. They've got fantastic mobility as well. Don't even sleep on Kirmi on this Athena jungle. The dash and reach combo is enough to chunk people down to about 50% as well. Yuji gets out of there pretty luckily, I'd say.
Yeah, some squeaky bum time if we want to dust off a phrase from the archives here, Mifflin. Big Yuji's gonna have to be a lot more careful, but luckily he's got that Bumba's dagger, so doesn't actually have to take a trip back to base just yet. Instead, goes for a few more camps, gets a little bit of health back, so he'll be just fine for now. My biggest question mark, though, is over on this left-hand side. How well is Gamma and Benny going to be able to match up to this Odin-Cupid duo lane?
Up until around level 5, that should be completely even. The ultimates are going to be a great differentiator here, and we've seen how the Cupid-Apollo matchup works isolated, but with the 2v2, with both supports staying in lane, I'd still say it will largely remain even. You just got to make sure that that Odin cage isn't able to lock down Benny. No way for this Apollo to deal with it. Outside of that, though, just use your CC immune ultimate. You can escape out of those situations. You should be able to leverage the true damage from Death's Kiss as well. It should be a relatively even lane.
We'll have to see as it plays out. I'm really interested to see how Gamma's going to make these rotations. We have seen, historically, right, we've seen kind of the two different kinds of Circuit support. You have Irafa's version, which is a lot more aggressive, I'm going to fight you. And then you have the other version, which is the more, we're going to wait, we're going to be a little bit more patient, try and Death's Kiss somebody at the start of a fight and push them into everybody else. So I wonder how Gamma's going to end up playing it.
Yeah, we'll have to see, especially considering the build. He could go for the Bruiser style, maybe something along the lines of a Shifter's Shield. He could go for a more tried-and-true support build with Gauntlet of Thieves. It's all up in the air for now, but taking a peek at his starter item selection, the wings, I think it is pretty clear that he's going to play a much more facilitator style rather than a secondary jungler.
Well, Gamma getting forced out here on the left-hand side, gets stunned out by that heart bomb, but as you said yourself, Mifflin, everything's just kind of even across the map here. These two teams trying, actually, Kimmy on the right-hand side, looking to find Big Yuji. Ultimate is popped by the Tsukiyomi, up, down, Kimmy smushes him into the ground for first blood.
That's such an easy turnaround for the Fishies there, and an interesting mechanic. Nehu able to use that dance, the second ability to immune the piercing moonlight. If he doesn't deal damage with the initial shots, he actually will not teleport to his target, and from there, it's so easy to know where he's going to land. Only hit one shot, Kirmi knows. Viol Nehu, I'm dunking him every single day of the week. Yuji is going to have to pick his fights much smarter next time around.
It's a really interesting combo. I had not thought of that, but the Fishies are really using that next level thinking. A beautiful ult from Kimmy. Means they won't have it available over here, though. Left-hand side, Benny could be in some danger, but a beautiful Mez is going to get him out of the cage just fine.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to go throughout the early game, but once these supports start to rotate out, trading out the Fields of Love for the Chariot or anything along those lines is going to become more and more value. It's so hard for Apollo to fight in the 1v1 up against Cupid. I think, if anything, I want to see Fishies have Oceans rotate out, leave him alone on Island, trust Renjaru to take the winning matchup.
I could agree with that. Chronic forced to his ult on the right-hand side here as well. Gamma shows some presence. And the big squid is going to be down without an ultimate. Luckily, though, his lane partner doesn't have anything so flashy to counter that or take advantage with it. She'll just be doing generic Tiamat stuff, which is spawning an infinite wave of lizards to pressure your tower.
Infinite wave of lizards to pressure your tower, also having immense damage from a range, and then jumping in and being the frontliner for your squad. Aquarius is going to have a lot to do for his team here once he's able to rotate out of that lane. But is he going to be able to bring the exact same amount or as much as Chronic will be to the team fight phase? Is he going to be able to bring that same level of presence that Cthulhu affords his squad? Aquarius has a lot to live up to here, but already with a 1-level lead, I think he's off to a good start.
I think yes, but in a different way, right? Like, Chronic is going to be in the fight, separating everything, but Aquarius's big team fight draw will be setting up before the fight happens and making sure the other lanes have pressure, right?
Yeah, he should be able to constantly have pressure inside of a lane. Just as you said, drop a Lizard in Soul Lane, rotate out, and if Chronic wants to, he's going to either have to leave that lane and have the Lizards pushing on their own, or try and follow the rotation and make sure that the team fight doesn't swing the way of Winter Dogs. That's the strength of Tiamat, the ability to split up the map. I like to equate Tiamat to a walking Oni Fury. I mean, you just have empowered minions wherever you need them.
That's actually not a bad analogy, and considering that the Lizard Portal gives you 6 minions, that's a good one, Myth. Yeah, I think that might catch on just about as much as Emergent Meta did.
So not at all. Thanks, Blazy. I'll get back to the drawing board, and we'll think up some more phrases to describe these things as we get a little bit of a peek of the damage coming through here from Chronic. And that build is interesting, going for the Stone of Binding, mirroring exactly what Aquarius is going for himself. Should make for a relatively tanky lane. It's going to benefit Aquarius a little bit more so, though, getting that defense online. Doesn't have to deal with Kirmi nearly as much.
Chronic as well, I feel like, has less options once someone is CC'd with that Stone of Binding to do extra damage himself, right? Beyond the Maya, which I'm not even sure if the root counts. Scratch that, we'll talk about it later. Once again, Big Yuji in some trouble here, is able to immune out the damage from Defender of Olympus, but Chronic is here as well. Looking for the knock-up, isn't quite going to find it. Up and down goes Oceans. Now the rest of the team is here. But can Big Yuji get away? No, he can't. Chronic comes in with the swipe, but Gamma is here to find the return kill. Oceans takes a spill. Chronic could still be in some trouble here, but Gamma doesn't have the ultimate available to him. Jumping forward, here comes Nehu, misses the stun, so he could be in some danger now that his kit's down. Smelly Finger from Crimson. The fire is going to do enough damage to allow Aquarius to come in and snatch up the kill.
Big Yuji's absolutely the MVP of that engagement. My man lived 15 to 20 seconds longer than he should have, creating the time for the rest of his team to rotate in there and turn that fight around. Fishies overextending themselves into the enemy jungle, even walking into the tier 2 tower for a second there, means that it just gives them infinite time, the Winter Dogs that is, to rotate wherever they need. Fantastic use of the piercing moonlight to avoid that Defender of Olympus as well. Kirmi missing out on a lot of his burst.
Fool me once, shame on whichever one. I forget the expression. Basically, Big Yuji is going to fall for that same Olympus trick twice. Doesn't get hit by it this time around. And now the Winter Dogs are taking that little advantage that they got from that fight, clearing away some more of the neutral objectives. Still no neutral Scorpion on the map so far. Winter Dogs not quite comfortable enough to do the one on the right-hand side just after the fight, or the one on the left-hand side at the moment, but Winter Dogs are feeling comfortable enough to go for this invade.
Yeah, it looks like the Fishies are already moving into this red buff. Oceans finds a cage onto Yuji again, but doesn't have the follow-up that he needs. Actually losing out in this trade. Finally, some damage finds its way towards Yuji, and he should fall here, but re-engages with a piercing moonlight.
Defender of Olympus is going to come down and is going to hit Gamma, but nobody else. And looks like Benny made the rotation, is able to find a kill, and Gamma follows up with the second. Ranjaru falls down, but Gamma in a little bit of trouble here, but he's tanky enough to be able to make his way out just fine. The rest of the Fishies, though, limp off to lick their wounds.
Yeah, I think the Fishies got to think a little bit longer and a little bit harder about these invade attempts, man. That's a failed blue buff invade that results in a 2-for-1 for Winter Dogs into a failed red buff invade. That's a pretty clean win for the Winter Dogs there as well. Now 4-2 are the slash lines across the board, and we're looking at about a nearly 2,000 gold lead in favor of the Order side team. And the Order side team hasn't chosen a fight yet. They haven't had to go on the proactive every single time. The Fishies are just giving them the fights that they want.
And we can kind of hark back to what we were saying about that comp, right? This is a very reactionary composition. Most of Winter Dogs are just here for the counter engage, and when Fishies are just throwing their bodies at Winter Dogs, they don't need to worry about how are we going to start a fight, how are we going to push our lead. Fishies are just giving them exactly what they want.
But it does make sense for the playstyle of the composition that the Fishies have. You want to be able to leverage that early game presence, that ability to CC the opposition. You want to start the fight on your own foot, but with this gold deficit as it is, how the fights have been panning out, you have to imagine the Fishies are going to try and slow down the pace now. At least wait a couple of minutes, get a couple more items online, get to that level 12 slot, the second relic, and then start to regroup, maybe even try and force the Winter Dogs into an actual 5v5 on neutral territory, be it around a POI like Gold Fury or Pyromancer, or even invading a tower or something along those lines. But walking into the enemy's jungle, into their own buffs, into the loving arms of 5 of the Order side defenders, I don't think that's going to work out.
Do you think maybe instead Fishies should be looking for one of these neutral objectives? Actually, scratch that. Benny in some trouble once again, able to take off to the sky before Defender of the Olympus crashes down, and that's very lucky for him, because I think if he gets hit by Defender of Olympus there, the Heart Bomb might have actually finished him off in the sky.
Yeah, should have been just enough with all the damage coming through from this Athena, ticking for probably around 400 now. With Defender of Olympus, a nice two-man taunt on a big UG, but not enough follow-up as Oceans blinks forward and finds the cage.
He's on his way. Big Yuji going forward with that piercing moonlight is going to lead him straight into the grave. Renjaru takes credit for that kill. Now Fishies with a man advantage. Dashing back in is Kirmi. Hits the taunt, but Gamma should be just fine. This isn't your typical squishy Scorpion. She's going to be way too hard for the Fishies to clean up without pretty much any ultimates. Neu, the only one holding on to that 4 button for now. So Fishies just decide to back off, and they'll wait and re-engage later.
Yeah, speaking of these supports, take a peek at the disparity is what I wanted to say as Oceans gets caught out a little bit here. Dash forward from Athena, does find the taunt. Gamma able to disengage easily. It's about a 1-level deficit between Gamma and Oceans, both of them going for that Gauntlet of Thieves in the first slot here, but the disparity ends there. We're looking at a 2-0 Circuit support, able to do just about no wrong on the map, maintaining level equity with the Fishies mid laner.
And she's doing so good there as well with this build. You saw just how little damage Neu was able to do to Gamma, even with a full combo dumped onto him, and Kirmi as well doing a bunch of damage. So I don't think Gamma is really too worried about doing anything, right? Circuit is already able to get out of those situations for the most part with that big mobility that she's got, but now Gamma doesn't even have to worry about using them defensively. Gamma can dash in, and then by the time he's taken enough damage to be worried, he can probably just dash back out again.
Dash out, jump out, hop on someone's back, be CC immune. Circuit so versatile inside of these team fights, and Fishies haven't found a true team fight just yet. It's always been Kirmi dashing forward, finding a 1 or 2 man taunt, and then immediate disengage from Winter Dogs, and the Fishies maintain the gas pedal, literally a cinder block down on that pedal, just won't let go of their W keys. Oceans blinks forward, finds a cage, maybe Renjaru drops the Fields of Love, and then after all of those resources have been expended, that's where Winter Dogs are always looking to re-engage these fights. That's when they're ready to start going for the fight themselves. And look, they're going to have the advantage if they just have more ultimates available.
Yeah, it's been nothing but success for the Winter Dogs at the moment. Fishies really trying to find something, but not quite able to achieve what they want. Winter Dogs, in the meantime, though, gonna strip away this left side Scorpion and look to set up for that Gold Fury. Now, Winter Dogs really in a decent position to take it away here, but this could be a good opportunity for the Fishies to come back and regain some of this ground that they've lost. 2K down here at 15 minutes.
And the Winter Dogs certainly have a good composition for burning down the Gold Fury. Maybe not so much for the confirmation, but with Merlin on your team, inside of that fire stance, switch it up into ice stance as well, you are going to absolutely shred any neutral objective you're able to get to, or anyone who's even CC'd in front of you. It's been a long time since we really got to have a good look at Merlin, especially in Season 8. Feels like this god's gone by the wayside in large part, but he's definitely still got that damage output, definitely still has that potential to hypercarry a team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's one of these mage picks that's like, well, Merlin's not bad, right? But here is like 5 other mages who are just better. And I think because of just how much he's been outclassed, I don't think many people have had much of a chance to play against a Merlin. I know I definitely don't see him in my ranked queues, you know? So I think this is a pretty interesting pickup, especially considering how much we saw Erupt Crimson go to this pick last year in the SCC and how comfortable he looks on it now, even still.
Yeah, and immediately starting to work his way in towards a more standard build. 2-level lead for the mid laner on the side of Winter Dogs. Now's the time to start leveraging it. Gold Fury has spawned up. We're going to see if the Winter Dogs are able to establish that defensive positioning. Gamma, pretty far forward here. Careful. Nice taunt.
Once again in a bad spot, but Gamma will be just fine. The problem with Oceans on this Odin is that he doesn't have as much CC, as much lockdown potential as you would in your traditional Guardian. Doesn't have that cage, but Gamma doesn't really care all too much about it unless he doesn't have that jump available, so he'll be just fine for now. Fishies, though, looking for Erupt Crimson this time. Kimmy dashing forward, finds the taunt now. Defender of Olympus coming through. Gamma could be in some trouble this time. It's actually going to be Big Yuji he's getting engaged onto. He's going to not be able to survive as long as he wants to this time around, and Gamma might finally meet his end to the Heart Bomb. Renjaru takes credit for that one. 2 kills on the board now for the Fishies. Looking back towards the Gold Fury, Aquarius has made his rotation over, as has the solo laner from Fishies. So everyone on the map is over towards this left-hand side now. BenQ back over towards the lane, so he's not going to be here for the fight, really. Aquarius just trying to find some damage, but dashing forward is Kimmy. The taunt is going to be good, but Aquarius isn't really taking too much damage just yet. Jumping in, though, the steal isn't going to be on the mark, but look at the damage. Aquarius finds one, downfalls Neu. Chronic is going to be the second one on the menu. Tiamat comes in clutch, finding 2 kills, potentially a third if they can find Oceans as well. Not quite. It's going to be fine.
2 for 2 in Gold Fury going the way of the Fishies there should result in a net game neutral, but as Doug has already highlighted, those minions on the right-hand side starting to work their way in towards the Tier 1 tower. Left side Tier 1 falls in favor of Winter Dogs as well. That 2,000 gold lead is now approaching 3 for the Order side team, and we got to see it there, man. Aquarius jumps forward, someone hit him one time, one auto attack from Renjaru, slams him for about 40 HP, and if I'm Aquarius, I'm feeling pretty confident to continue moving forward after that. No one can touch this Tiamat, not just yet.
Absolutely. Level 18, Mifflin. That is, what is that? 3 levels? 2 levels above Chronic right now? It's 2. Don't do math on cast. It's not a good idea, but my man is so powerful, is so tanky, is so all-encompassing that I don't think anyone can do anything about him at the moment. The right Tier 1 nearly takes a spill thanks to the giblets, but not quite. It's still got a little bit of HP here, but I mean, Aquarius was gaining XP and gold the whole time that they were in the left lane fighting over Gold Fury. The wave got pushed in by the Lizards. Aquarius didn't miss out on anything. Meanwhile, Chronic misses out on maybe 2, maybe even a 3rd wave as well, whilst they're over towards the left-hand side. Speaking of the left-hand side, BenQ takes another dip. Never mind, actually, hold on, the dash. Yeah, he might be fine. He's got the speed. Flanking forward is Kimmy, but cooldowns aren't there for him just yet. Cancel that. He'll be just fine. Makes it up into the defender of Olympus. 2 more Winter Dogs caught in a winner cage. Erupt Crimson able to find 1 in trade. And, well, Neu looks like he'll be able to walk away just fine. Big Yuji can't say the same thing, though, as he's going to get stomped down into the ground.
Now, say what you will about the Winter Dogs, but they are always willing to commit their bodies to try and peel out for their carries. Yuji and Crimson walk into that fight at a disadvantage on the off chance of being able to get BenQ out of there, and unfortunately doesn't quite pan out that way. They are, in exchange, able to at least pick up the jungler for the Fishies. Kirmi falls to the damage from Merlin, but not quite enough there. That's not a great trade for the Order side team. Fishies find themselves a small win.
Aquarius, really the beacon for Winter Dogs at the moment. Definitely not the only man on the map doing well. We have level leads pretty much across the map here in the mid lane, and the support. Actually, I'll eat my words. Oceans has just about caught up there with his counterpart. So actually, a little bit more even. If we could take a look at the graphs, I think it might be mainly Aquarius that this XP lead is jumping up onto. The gold certainly falling back closer towards the favor of Fishies, but XP still about 5,000 in favor of Winter Dogs.
Yeah, the Fishies are doing a good job of closing up that gap as best they can. 5,000 experience is starting to mean a lot less and less. The great equalizer, level 20, is hot on the horizon. Aquarius already the first one to reach that spot, and the majority of the experience lead being on him, and it's going to continue to be on him. It's going to be a tough situation for Winter Dogs to find some affluence elsewhere. It needs to share that wealth as they start to look towards this greater Scorpion. If this goes down, should be able to create a POI on the map that the Fishies should not feel confident stepping into. I mean, if I'm on the Chaos team, I don't want to fight anywhere near the solo lane. This Tiamat is that dominant.
Absolutely, yeah. Although, I guess the advantage of trying to come for this objective, hold on, BenQ in trouble once again, makes it to the sky this time, just about nearly takes a spill, but he'll be just fine. BenQ keeps getting away from these situations by the skin of his teeth, Mifflin, and it's starting to make me very anxious.
Yeah, it's a very nervous situation for Benny over here. It's been a lot of fixation from the Fishies trying to find pressure inside of that duo lane, and already now we're starting to see a 3-man grouping. Athena, Odin, and Cupid looking at that tier 2 tower. I agree, man. The Fishies are right to put their pressure over in duo. Let's ignore that Tiamat. Let's try and fight a rounder, eat a rounder inside your popcorn or whatever you want to do. Just don't interact with them. Aquarius is so massive at this point that really he's going to be the difference maker inside these team fights.
Yeah, Fishies definitely looking at the situation and going, listen, if we can just deal with all 4 of these guys and you can stay over there, Aquarius, it's fine. You're not invited to the party, but Aquarius, of course, is going to invite himself. I don't think we'll see a fight without Aquarius for probably a while. I don't think that they're going to be wanting to fight without their solo laner. He's just so far ahead that if they can do absolutely everything in their power to try to hold on until he gets there, they will.
Yeah, they will. Aquarius has got plenty of time to work with, and with the Greater Scorpion falling on that Fire Giant side, I think that they're going to be able to drag the fight over to solo sooner rather than later. Pyromancer, although one of the smallest neutral objectives on the map, still certainly something you have to fight over, especially at this point in the game, especially with the margins being as thin as they are. But Fire Giant, there's not too much threat of that. Aquarius's team is not quite able to secure an objective against a 5-on-5. If they do start up the Fire or the Pyro, they're immediately going to have to shift their focus more so towards the fight rather than a secure war.
Yeah, that's kind of the disadvantage of this team comp, right? They do have a really good anti-engage, and hey, Merlin is still really good at taking those objectives, but when it comes to securing, I don't think that he's going to be out-securing the Fishies anytime soon. They just have too many tools on the board. Even Tiamat as well doesn't really have anything in terms of secure outside of maybe the 1, but even that's like a couple big shots, right? It's not all at once, so it's going to be a dangerous situation fighting around this Fire Giant for sure.
But the Fishies certainly have ways to work their way forward. They still have ways to fight around these objectives. They still have Cthulhu. Descent into Madness is not just going to be a bad tool, even though there is a Tiamat on the other team. You're still going to be a phenomenal CC zone for your team. You're going to be able to heal them up as well. They can utilize the Cupid healing to elongate these team fights, play around their heals, and try and drag it out as long as possible. It's more so about choosing their engagements properly. When we see the Fishies fall, these 5-on-5 engagements, in large part it's been due to overextensions, going too deep into the enemy jungle, looking into their tier 2 towers, sticking around in fights where really they'd already expended all their resources running on fumes. If they're able to start a fight, realize, okay, this isn't really going so great, let's back up, let's use our healing, and then look for another re-engage, that's where we're going to see this Fishies draft really come to fruition.
Actually, I didn't get an opportunity to have a look at the build paths, but I wonder if there is any anti-heal built up against this Chang'e yet, because if they don't, then I think it could be a very rough spot for them to be in, especially if Chang'e's in the fight. If everyone else is in the fight, they're not suffering from that out-of-combat heal debuff that is on the map during Season 8, so it'll be interesting to see that. Mifflin, going forward into the next fight, what do you think is going to be the POI? Because as you said, Fire Giant is maybe off the table. Pyromancer isn't necessarily a big contestation point at the moment. So what do you think the story will be there?
It could be around this Gold Fury, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be the neutral objective itself. It could be just the team fight that happens there. It's spawning in about 45 seconds to a minute from now. We could see potentially the Fishies try and group up there and try and take a fight on their own ground, since they do have a more initiation-centric composition. Or we could see the other squad group up and just utilize their lead, but off of that fight, we might see them immediately peel off. All right, well, we won the 5-on-5 engagement. There's no reason to pick up this Primal Fury. Instead, let's go to Fire Giant. Let's see if we can strip away some of these tier 1s, these tier 2s, and regroup from there. I'm really interested to see where they decide to play it. We could have them start up a fight around the Pyro, but I just don't imagine it. No way are they going to choose to fight around this Tiamat, man. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, the only way that it would, right, is because Tiamat doesn't have lizards in other lanes, right? So if they fight around the Fire Giant side of the map, at least then it's not too much of a distance to go and clear out those lizards. Those giblets is what I like to call them. It's just like a little snappier. I'm having to think of that lizard title, but that's, yeah, I gotta agree with you. That's really the only, in my mind, the only excuse I can see for them to fight around the Fire Giant, but Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a rough one. We do apologize for these technical difficulties, ladies and gents. Just a bit of a long pause, but we are going to throw you over to a quick break whilst we get everything settled and sorted. So stay right where you are, because we won't be long.
I'm sorry, my dear.
You think you've learned your lesson?
I guess I made a mistake. I'll remember.
I trusted you for too long. I trusted you.
Guess I made a mistake. I'll remember.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen, and we have action to spare as Gamma and co try to run down Neu in the mid lane, but doesn't look like that's going to come to fruition. Meanwhile, though, Fishies on the left-hand side take down that tier 2. Nehu getting chased out still. Winter Dogs going to trade out that left tier 2 for a mid tier 2. And Mifflin, that was a lot, but we're back.
Yeah, Winter Dogs coming out ahead on that trade every single day of the week, man. That mid tier 2 so good as a bash and a safety for the Chaos team to be able to retreat to. And now Winter Dogs are in a position where they can move in towards the Fire Giant and force the Fishies to take a disadvantageous fight, especially considering Descent into Madness used on his own. If he doesn't kill Yuji, man got 0 value.
Oceans is trying to make his way over and trying to find something, and so his Kimmy, Defender of Olympus, was expended, and it is going to pay off eventually. Finally, he falls down, but now Raid Boss has arrived. Aquarius locked in the baby cage, 5v1, but can he get out? It's actually going to be Chronic running away from him, but Aquarius is still taking damage. Although, sorry, cancel that. Aquarius is still not taking damage. He's more than fine. Renjaru, next target, in some trouble, but Gamma is going to be able to peel him away and get out. Everyone stays alive, minus Big Yuji, but talking point here is the Pyromancer falls down for free.
No, I think the talking point is that Aquarius used his jump to engage, landed inside an Odin cage, and stared down 10 eyes from the enemy team. 5 people were looking at this man the entire Odin cage duration, and he still walked out with about 20% HP to spare. Aquarius is nigh unkillable at this point. That's tough going, because that's the best situation Fishies could have had if they wanted to shut him down.
Is it 10 eyes? I thought Odin only had 1 eye. Am I wrong about that?
Did you just fact check my joke with lore? Did you just lore check my joke, Blazy? Where are we, bro?
I think I did. I think I did just lore check your joke, Mifflin. I'm pretty sure Odin only has 1 eye, so 9 eyes staring down Aquarius. But listen, man, you still made a good point, right? Aquarius is still unkillable. You gotta get those facts right, dude. You gotta adhere to the law.
Ocean's blinking forward here, finds a cage on a Gamma, not exactly the target he was looking for, has to jump out, and Aquarius, again, not a great target, that man doesn't die.
Big Yuji, though, dashing into the fight, and now Chronic back on the offensive. There's going to be able to take out the Tsukiyomi. Down he falls, but Benny Q is going to be able to trade out, and the health bars on Fishies are low across the board. They're in danger here. Oceans and his friends are going to fall down. Kimmy dies, Oceans dies, Renjaru dies. One after the other, they got Big Yuji, but at what cost? The man is already 0-7. You don't have to keep killing him when it gets everyone else on the map killed.
Yeah, he is not the target. It hasn't worked out just yet. 70% of the deaths on the side of Winter Dogs are to the Tsukiyomi. This big Yuji guy is absolutely struggling here, but it's fine. He's setting up his team. Order side, looking at the Fire Giant now, and nobody on the side of the Fishies able to step forward. Looks like they actually had Crimson looking for a little bit of a split push, trying to keep those minion waves pushed up. I think they'd have been better suited having a Merlin here to just help out clear that Fire Giant.
I mean, not that it matters, right? What are they going to do? Chronic is going to walk in and not descend into madness because he's already used the ultimate and steal the Fire Giant? Neu is going to respawn and get to the Fire Giant in like 2 seconds? Nah, there's literally nothing that they can do. I gotta agree, like, maybe a different person going up to split push, but at the end of the day, no harm, no foul, right? Erupt Crimson isn't slowing it down too much to the point where it's going to be dangerous.
No, it certainly doesn't have too much to worry about. Could potentially have had someone else go for the split push, as you highlighted, so they could maybe take down a tier 2 tower or a Phoenix, but instead, Fire Giant on 5 members, 5,000, nearly 6,000 gold in the lead, and Primal Fury on the menu. Gamma doing a phenomenal job just making sure no one on the side of Fishies can move forward here. Fantastic as just creating that space because he's at such a low amount of risk. One of the most mobile gods in Smite is Serket with tankiness as well. It's almost impossible to kill him.
It's kind of crazy. Gamma 2 levels here above Oceans. And as you said, she's got tankiness, she's got jumps, she can jump on you, and on top of that, she's super tanky. You just can't kill this Cat. Gamma really making a big advantage out of it. He's really using this character in this style to its fullest. It's really exciting to see as the Winner Dogs go for this push on the left tier 2. Mid lane getting pushed up here by the Apollo. Benny Q has the ultimate available to him in case the rest of his team need it. Winner Dogs still waiting, still a little bit hesitant here to push down this tier 2.
Yeah, they know that if they start to move in, Fishies still have phenomenal engage tools. You gotta work through the Descent into Madness. You gotta wait for Kirmi to find that confound before you're really willing to commit your bodies to it. Fishies doing a good job putting up a defense, and it's a hard defense on the tier 2. Chronic moving forward, Descent into Madness is used.
Defender of Olympus comes down around the Squid, and Nehu is going to start off the party by adding an 8 slash to the big Yuji's death box there. Gamma also falling low, having to go away. The Heart Bomb's going to do next to nothing to the Serket, though. Fishies still holding on to this tier 2, but Winner Dogs have the healing. They have the sustain. Benny Q gets blink taunted, but he has beads instantly. Neu gonna get turned around on. Crimson finds that kill. Renjaru in some trouble here as well. Can he run away from Aquarius? No, he can't. Om nom nom. Tasty little Cupid man. Oceans as well in some trouble, but is going to be able to jump away from the pull from Erupt. Crimson health bars are still pretty low on Winner Dogs, but Aquarius still at full health. And when this man is at full health, everyone else may as well be. They are absolutely fine to keep going here. Aquarius doing a really good job at zoning. Fishies now trying to defend this tier 2 Phoenix, of course, coming in, but they don't really have the tools available to them. No ultimates at the ready. Gamma nearly falls, but he's still fine. Benny Q taking Phoenix, but he's still fine. Oceans falls down, and Aquarius still going forward. Phoenix falls down, and Winner Dogs on the retreat.
Yeah, Aquarius healed up throughout the duration of that fight. My man may have taken a tower shot to put a slight wound on his hide and then walked into 3 enemies and said, yeah, you guys just cannot hurt me at this point. Aquarius, absolutely the raid boss for his team, creating infinite space, creating infinite opportunities for the rest of the Winner Dogs to find these tier 2 towers and take out these Phoenixes. Now, mid-Phoenix down, only 1 tower left standing for the Fishies, and Pyromancer cleared out as well. Winner Dogs are crossing their T's and dotting their I's. Fire Giant buff going to be spawning in exactly 1 minute. I don't imagine a world in which Fishies step up to defense.
No, for sure. Definitely going to be all playing around these Phoenixes now for Fishies. What's the play here, Mifflin? We just saw them try and take a Fire Giant defense, and they got creamed. So what do Fishies do in this situation?
Well, initially, they were able to defend their Phoenix safely. They were able to kill 1 target. Yuji falls easily on the tier 2 tower. Fishies from there should have disengaged fully, fallen back to their own. Phoenix said, all right, we put up a soft defense. We got to pick. No way they go for a Phoenix in a 5 versus 4, but instead, it's the same issue the Fishies have been having this entire match. They don't know when to disengage these fights.
Gamma stepping forward, and for the first time, he might be a little bit too deep, jumps away, but finally, he's gonna get put down. This could be the opportunity Fishies want, but Oceans is gonna eat a big one. Down he goes. Oceans takes the spill, and now up into the descent into madness goes Cthulhu. Renjari takes the spill in the back line, and now up, down goes Apollo. Big UG finally finds his first 2 kills of the game. Chronic gonna be falling down for number 3. Kimmy, only man left standing. Gamma, the only one dead. Winner Dogs, if they can take this kill, even if they can't, Erupt Crimson pushing down that mid lane. The giblets are already there, chewing through the wave in mid, and it looks like Winner Dogs are just going to run it up. That has got to be the game here. 30 seconds, 20, sorry, on the nearest respawn. Oceans has no hope in hell of defending this Titan.
Yeah, Crimson, with a little bit of toxicity, wants to make sure the rest of his team gets in the winner shot, the still frame, after the Titan falls here. But that's the exact same issue we've seen from the Fishies this entire time. They find a pick onto Gamma, and then they just keep holding their W key, man. You guys used 4 ultimates to kill their support. There's no way you're going to be able to win the team fight after that, and they certainly don't. It's easy pickings for the Order side team, and it results in an easy W as well.
It's been really well played here by the Winner Dogs. If it's not Big Yuji taking a spill, it's Gamma, and the whole rest of the team is instantly there to follow up and capitalize off of it. And I think that's the big differential between these two at the moment, is that the Winner Dogs know how to turn a fight. They were fine with losing Big Yuji again and again, because every time he fell down, they got like 3 kills off of it.
Yeah, it's just these fights just were not going the way Fishies had predicted, but that's the nature of an all-in composition like they had. Athena, Odin, and Cthulhu. What's the common denominator there? It's the W key, and it's glued down. Unfortunately, every single time. They never disengaged a fight. If we saw them start one up, they either finished it or they went back to base in a body bag. There was no in-between.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, there are going to have to be a lot of changes here for Fishies moving into game number 2. But we'll let the desk break that down in just a few minutes. Because for now, ladies and gents, here's a short break for you.
Well, Gore, it's a big win for Winter Dogs over the Fishies this time around. Perhaps got those fishes out of water or something like that. I don't super know how to land that analogy, Gore, but either way, Winter Dogs did get it done. It was done largely through Aqua and Crimson, wasn't it? The solo and the mid lane having a big impact for them. But what did you see here in this game that was causing so much trouble there for Fishies? It seemed like Nehu couldn't really get off the ground from where I was sitting either, and they were having trouble making their game plan work kind of from minute one.
I think it was one of those things, that draft, I mean, first off, not having any tanks, so it made it a little easier for them, I think, to deal with Odin as a support, because all of a sudden they just blow him up, right? Like, you step forward, you're not tanky enough necessarily there. Cthulhu as well, like a very similar, I would argue, maybe problem, where it's just, if there's nothing but damage to come at you, everyone's going to then theoretically be able to kill you pretty quickly. But Aquarius was just able to kind of run the show, right? This Tiamat looked really, really solid. A lot of pressure that was being able to get applied here. But at this point in the game, I mean, you can already see he's got like 2-level leads on a lot of people over there. And that, I think, was the biggest deal. This early game did not go the way I think Fishies needed it to. And it almost essentially just kind of spiraled out of control. There was a little bit of bounce back, but for the most part, like, you get Benny Q comfortable over here as a carry. Even though you didn't have Andy over there, you had Yuji in the jungle, who didn't necessarily, I think, fill Andy's shoes the way that you would like on this team. Benny Q was definitely able to fill this role exactly the way you would want, and so it just made it a lot easier for them to literally just turn and burn. Like, this was a 5-man grouping that just decimated anything that stood in their way, and I liked Aquarius' approach. Again, Tiamat is someone that we're still trying to, like, I want to say figure out at this level, but seeing, like, this tanky build, solo take on it, highest damage in the game, like, I liked where Aquarius took this one.
Yeah, not bad from him at all, right? Had an excellent performance. Crimson as well. Benny Q was already highlighted. Even though Yuji's KDA didn't come out the way they wanted, he was still kind of getting his damage off, dying in ways that set up for the team, kind of forcing Fishies to overcommit. So good work from Winter Dogs all around. Yeah. Go, I'm right there with them. And if I'm Fishies, they had a lot of good tools. Chang'e and Athena and Cthulhu are top-tier picks right now, picks that get banned in a lot of their games. I think maybe, as you kind of highlighted, the Odin support wasn't great for them in this game against so much damage. And trying to find a way to deal with all this AoE mage damage that they were getting from Aqua and Crimson, and then Benny coming in to clean up those kills is going to be a big plan for him. But if I'm Fishies, I don't think you have to really throw out the whole playbook, right? You just need to kind of find it where you make those small adjustments so you can deal with Winter Dogs a little bit better. And for what it's worth, who knows if they were ready to play against Benny and Yuji in those roles, or if they were game planning against Andy, right? They might have been caught off guard a little bit there too. So hard to say, but some small adjustments.
Super different drafting styles, right? Like, I think Andy, you know, in moments like that, like, he's more likely to pull that Circuit than anything else, right? There's a lot of things I think that could have changed depending on what they were expecting going into it. But now that you know what you're going up against, that's when you start, like you said, making those small adjustments. You still got 3 pieces of the puzzle that were really solid, but you go back, you look at the player damage, you didn't get a lot of damage out of Nehu, and that's where I think a lot of things are going to have to transition as well. Doesn't matter if you're Chang'e or not, your mid should be getting, if everybody else in the game other than supports are at 5 digits, you should be in 5 digits for your damage. He was sitting just above the Odin, I think just above the support there for Winter Dogs as well. So a couple of transitions that need to be made, but maybe some playstyle adjustments for the early game. Like you said, Chang'e, at least from what I've seen so far this year, is still a pretty decently top-tier pick, somebody that you can pick up. Maybe not going to take the place of people like Yanis, like Scylla, but definitely someone that should be able to hold their own in mid lane. And so Nehu needs to find that comfort. If it means going back to Kukulkan like last week, then do it, because that was a much better performance.
Hopefully we will get to see them make some adjustments right here at Gormizer. The picks and bans are on the horizon for game number 2. And in that first pick position is going to be Fishy. So that's already a nice adjustment for him from what we saw in game number 1. And as you were just saying about those top-tier mages, Giannis and Scylla, Giannis already taken off the board. So I wonder if we're going to see that Tiamat ban come through. I've got to think that's on the mind of Fishies, or maybe on Winter Dogs in this spot, Gore. If Fishies are first pick, they can kind of force Winter Dogs to take it, or Fishies would just end up taking it.
Yeah, it's definitely something that, again, if you can scoop it up first pick, you absolutely play with that. That's one of the best things about the ability. If you lose a map, not a lot of people know this, but when you lose, you get to choose which position you're in next. So that's perfect in this position, because now, like you said, you get to play with that. It forces Winter Dogs over there to ban it, and now all of a sudden, the wheels are turning. That's taking the place, I believe, of, well, what was a Yanis ban for Fishies last time around, but now all of a sudden you have a lot open. You still are taking down a lot lot of the mid laners right now. But I see Tsukuyomi still open, Athena's still open, a lot of these other gods that are still available in terms of aggression. So I'm really interested to see what Fishies want.
Yeah, Cthulhu Apollo still open as well. So yeah, not a huge surprise to see Fishies want to go back to getting this Cthulhu for Chronic over there in the solo lane and try and see if he can take another stab at it. Since you end up having a bit of a tough time keeping up with what Aqua was doing in that late game, but it's not as if he was blown out of the water in solo right from the beginning. So I'm on board with them taking a look at it. But now if I'm Winter Dogs, I think Apollo plus feels pretty good here, right? And if it's Apollo plus Tsukuyomi, then that's a great top 2 for them here in this slot. Tsukuyomi was great for them. Even though Yuji's KDA didn't look great, we kind of saw that he was still providing some of that damage and ended up being a target that Fishies put too much pressure on. But it's not going to be the Apollo. The Jingwei coming in a stand, which we have seen be successful here in Season 8.
And this is actually really interesting to me, like, because I think, what was it, yesterday? Maybe it was last week. I feel like we put a lot of pressure on the Chernobog, the Apollo, because we just kept seeing it locked in. And Apollo, admittedly, he kept winning those games, right? That's the biggest thing that I kept seeing. But I think Jingwei, again, much like that Heimdall that's up on that side of the screen, it is interesting because she's super safe, similar to Heimdall. She does a lot of good damage. Like, she was a top pick last year, too. It's not outrageous to then also think, hey, she's still good, right? Like, it's maybe Apollo's ult that gets him literally across the map, across the skies, if we want to be accurate here, and gets him into the fight. That's good, but Jingwei is still going to be able to be safe, do the ADC thing, and do it really well from her position. So I like seeing her locked in, even though it is one of those questions of priority.
Right, maybe not in those top 2 ADC positions, but certainly still strong. I mean, I was going against Jingwei the last time that she was played, that she had an excellent game, so I've learned my lesson. We'll see if Winter Dogs can make it work with Benny Q in that ADC position, and Yuji moved over to the jungle. So it's Morrigan and Apollo and Cthulhu over there. Gore, I think the biggest story right now has got to be, how are you, if you're Winter Dogs, going to deal with a double Cthulhu composition? Maybe you slide Tsukuyomi over to solo lane. Well, can you even do that with Tyr picked up and try and get a Nemesis? Since she's often the answer, and looks like maybe that's the call. Like maybe Tyr support Tsukuyomi solo and then Nemesis jungle, something like that here, Goremizer, could be in the cards.
I actually like that call. Again, I said it earlier, I like the Awesome Jake special. I like seeing Tyr over there in support because of what it can accomplish. And if you're going up against right now Apollo plus tank, Tyr gives you a lot of pressure. With Jingwei, you're going to get a lot of that pressure that maybe wouldn't exist otherwise, but there's still things like, I'm looking around Yamoja. If I get a Yamoja Apollo lane, that's going to be difficult to really dominate. If I'm Jingwei Tyr, yes, you still can be aggressive, but maybe not to the level that you're used to being. It does depend on the Guardians Fishies want to pick up here. Yeah, Sobek's still an option as well. Like, there's so many options to really give you that pressure, or to try and do what Ares will do, slow them down, right? You get a couple of chains, Jingwei's either not dashing away, or Tyr's not dashing in. Either way, you're stopping out what Winter's Dogs have in that dual lane.
Yeah, Ares great into just about all of these picks. Maybe Tsukuyomi not as bothered by it, but Nemesis, Tyr, and Jingwei all pretty upset. And then a Thoth coming in as this final selection. So another pick seeing the Ares without CC immunity in the kit is a huge surprise for me. That's going to put a ton of pressure then onto these beads of Crimson. But again, Crimson popped off last game. That's a young man that I trust to be able to make the plays out there. So he must feel confident to pick that in to the Ares.
And honestly, I think it's going to work out decently well. Against Morrigan in lane, at least, he's going to be able to out-farm her in most aspects. Like, the fight early on, I'm guessing, like you said, probably Nemesis going into the jungle. Could be Nemesis solo, although that's definitely not something that we see as much. Tsukuyomi, that flexibility exists. But whatever he's paired with, maybe they're not going to have the end-all, be-all. Whatever Yuji's on, I'm not sure like how readily available Yuji's going to be for easy ganks there. But knowing that you have that extra range and that burst of damage that comes with Thoth, I don't think you're worried about it. In the transition, like you said, he did incredibly well last game. As it gets later in this game, I expect Crimson to be pretty much on the tip of everybody's tongue.
Yeah, I got to think the big storyline here in this one is going to be how are Winter Dogs going to deal with what is very likely going to be a double Cthulhu onslaught from Morrigan, and then obviously the original Cthulhu that's over there, which has got to be Fishy's game plan. And then in all that chaos, Apollo and Camazotz to kind of flourish when otherwise they'd be the early targets of the aggression. So how will they deal with it? Game number 2 between Fishies and Winter Dog.
And what a bunch of interesting comps do we have. Some of the more spicy pickups in my eyes, at the very least, are this Jing Wei for Benny Q. And as they were saying on the desk, Mifflin, Erupt Crimson choosing to pick this Thoth into the Ares. No CCI ultimate available for the mid laner.
No, he's going to have to play very safe. Luckily, though, he's going to have the added benefit of this quadruple physical draft with a Yuji, Aquarius, and Gamma being the front line to create space. I think that, if anything, they may have been forced to pick Thoth just to make up for that magical damage deficit, but I think you highlighted one of the spicier picks inside of Jing Wei, and I would have agreed with you if you had said that yesterday, but today, after watching EU SCC and how they like to prioritize that pick, I think that Jing Wei kind of fills the exact same niche that she filled in Season 7. Just an incredibly safe pick that scales well into the late game that could go for crit if they so choose. I think that, if anything, you could have gone for something a little bit more pressure-centric, but there's really no need. Benny Q could just play safely over in duo.
That's fair. I mean, I guess Jing Wei, for me, is kind of in the same boat as Merlin last game, right? In that everyone's kind of looking at it going, oh, this is a bit weird, but in reality, it's not a bad pickup. There are just a line of ADCs in front of it that's just a better pickup, or at least perceived better in the current meta. But I definitely think it has a place. Benny Q might definitely show us how good this pick can be. He's a very talented player, so I would not be surprised.
Wouldn't be surprised at all, but for now, I expect almost nothing to happen in the duo lane. Potentially we see Gamma get aggressive on the early, but probably doesn't want to fight too much with Ares around. That cripple from the change is so hard to deal with. Instead, though, this 2v2 in mid, I think that's really where the sparks could potentially fly, as Renjaru forced to use the beads a little bit early on there. Tyr expends his blink as well. Active trade favoring the Chaos side team. Apollo going to have to play very safe for the near future.
For sure, but Ocean's looking forward. It doesn't look like they actually want to play the safe game. Gamma, well, I mean, Ocean's missed that chain, but it's not going to matter. And Jaru and Ocean's able to do so much damage right here, right now. And that's got to be the advantage of Ares over this tier in the support role. Other than, you know, just being a straight counter, Ocean's doesn't have to get behind you to do the damage. Instead, he just has to blink onto you, hit you with all three chains, and look at Gamma's health bar mill.
Yeah, it's a ton of damage. Fortunately, though, Gamma on this tier should be able to sustain up through potions, through his Sentinel's gift, as well as just the healing from Power Cleave. Fortunately, though, that pressure that the Fishies get are able to afford them a greater Scorpion Steel. Going to go their way here is what I would have said, but Winter Dogs confirm it for themselves. Got to get that last hit, boys.
Yeah, for sure, and that's going to give Gamma even more HP, and you can see him standing there getting that full effect from the Scorpion passing away, so he'll be just fine for now. No blink available for Ocean, so no such shenanigans to be reoccurring, and they're just going to go back for their buffs, which I think is just going to be the general pace of the game for the past, what, 10 minutes?
Until Kirmi or until Big Yuji decides to rotate into a lane, I think the junglers are going to be the ones that break the stalemate in every single one of these lanes. Aquarius doesn't really have too much 1v1 potential, neither does Chronic. The duo lane has largely stalemated due to all the relics being down, except for the beads on Benny Q still maintaining that defensive relic, which means that it's likely going to be a little while until we see the Fishies start to rotate over towards this duo lane. But with a slow pace like this, you have to think which team's really going to benefit from it, which team looks better in the late game. And as of right now, I'm really favoring the Fishies draft.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know who isn't favoring the Fishies draft? Crimson is going to hit Neu with 1,000,000 damage from 1,000,000 miles away, pick up first blood, and show us that Thoth is no pick to be messing with here in this mid lane. Nehu has to play carefuler than that. Carefuler? That's a word.
Yeah, sure. More careful, carefuler, safer. You know, there's a lot of options there, but I think you're absolutely right in your evaluation. Nehu thought potentially, all right, 40% HP, I don't really need to worry about it. No way. Crimson full charges and slams me with it, but he's got so much experience on this god Crimson. A Thoth specialist, if you would, all the way back into his SCL days, and now we're starting to see this duo lane get a little bit of action. Ocean's moving forward, hits over to level 5. CCM immune ultimates galore, though.
Whoa. Look at that coordinated jump forward from these two players. It's going to be rewarded with a kill onto Oceans there, but that was almost like that was beautiful. That was a movie scene. Benny Q and Gamma both leaping forward into the air as Oceans comes down from wielding those chains.
Yeah, Ocean's feeling himself a little bit too much there. Not sure what the plan was. Goes forward at half health, loses out on about half of that while he's just channeling the ultimate. Easy for them to move forward with their CC immune ultimates and turn that one around. Renjaru not quite able to finish up that kill onto Gamma, who makes it out with sub 100 HP. An unfortunate swing if you're a Fishies fan. But now Winter Dogs find themselves up 2 kills, but only about 400 gold. The macro game has been favoring the Fishies.
For sure, they've been farming a lot better, just really controlling their own farm, controlling these neutral objectives as well, the mid camps and the oracles, typically going towards the way of Fishies. If the graphs are to be believed, that's where that lead's coming from, as well as probably they're getting more of these totems. So, I mean, hey, Winter Dogs can get as many kills as they like, but if Fishies is farming this effectively, I don't think it's going to matter all that much.
It isn't. The Fishies are going to be able to transition themselves into the late game very easily. The double Cthulhu afforded to them by the Morrigan, the CC burning capacity of Ares to make sure that once there is a double Cthulhu, there's no CC immunity available to get you out of these situations. And now, Oceans getting caught out a little bit here, misses the chains. Gamma, thinking better of it, starts to work his way back towards his team. Gets caught out, though. 3 versus 2, losing out on 50% of his HP.
He's going to be able to heal up most of that, but now Ocean's blinking forward hits all 3 people with the ultimate there. 2 ults and beads forced. Crimson now has to be very careful with how he's going to be shaping up against Oceans once that ult comes back online.
Yeah, but the beads are expended by the Ares, so it's not going to be nearly as easy for the next 2 minutes for him to find those opportunities. Surely we will see a 3v3 emphasis from the Order side team here, trying to exploit the fact that Crimson doesn't have beads, doesn't have CC immunity on that ultimate. Finding a pick onto this Thoth would be huge for Nehu as well, who's already looking at a 1-level deficit.
And probably a bunch of gold here as well. If we can have a look at the player value on the graphs, you can see, look at that. That's... never mind, there it is. Net worth chart right there. About, that's pretty much a full first blood bounty in favor of Thoth.
That's exactly where it comes from as well. Slammed Nehu for first blood, also picking up the wave in his favor. And now Gamma moving over here into the tier 1 tower, does the full combo on Necrotic, who makes it out. Barely has to go into the Set of Madness now just to dissuade the die from continuing, but Winter Dogs have done enough to get themselves some pressure here. Looking now towards the blue buff, it's only Oceans on the defense. Kirmi hovering very far away.
Shoots the chain out, but it's not going to connect. I think that's a smart little play from Oceans, not committing too much now in the mid lane. Blinking forward onto a Crimson. No beads available for the Bud. Nehu nearly takes a spill. And Benny Q shooting up into the sky, trying to find the damage, but Kirmi's going to be able to fly away. 2 ults expended, and that's totally worth it. Crimson takes a spill.
Now Nehu on the retreat. Gamma seeing if he could maybe catch him out there on the lazy back. Ocean spots him out and drops him down to about 50% HP. Winter Dogs trying to make use of this time to work forward in the jungle, seeing if potentially there's some buffs up for them to strip away, but no luck this time either. 2 and 1 is the slash line, but Fishies are maintaining their gold, maintaining their experience as well. Winter Dogs have not been able to separate themselves from the pack just yet. 8 minutes into the game.
They picked a fantastic target as well. Or Crimson, as we highlighted earlier, really the big hoarder of most of the lead there from Winter Dog. So taking him off the board negates that as much as I think is possible. The only other target that's worth about as much is Aquarius at the moment, sitting about a half-level lead above Chronic, but Crimson once again in some trouble. He still doesn't have his beads available, and that's what happens when you don't pick a god with CC immunity up into an Ares.
That's tough for Crimson. He literally had 2 seconds left on those beads, maybe less than 1 after Ares got that fully channeled. Now Chronic on the retreat. Aquarius absolutely bullying his lane opposition. Hey, rest in peace, bud. Should have thought about that one. Piercing Moonlight puts him down here. Now it's up to Kirmi to maybe turn this one around. Still does not have the bat out of hell. Fearless off the mark. Aquarius is going to fall in exchange.
Demi able to jump over it. Really well played from the bat. Does manage to find the trade. Bit of an interesting play there from Aquarius. He had options to help him get away. And with Gamma hovering in the wings, I don't think he needed to try and go for that back.
No, maybe work his way in towards the jungle, but he wants to get out because he knows someone's rotating over, tries to make his way back to base, just didn't quite have the time for it. Beads wouldn't have helped him in that situation. No ultimate available means he's got no way to immune the damage either. I think Aquarius did the best that he could given the situation, and still at the end of the day, does solo out his opposition, at least a morale hit onto Koronic.
Fair enough, and he still maintains this half-level lead, this level lead. Koronic now sitting a level behind, but it's about half an XP bar, so he's not too upset about dying. Maybe a little bit more, but Nehu once again could get three-handed Garrett. Well, I mean, there it is. Erupt Crimson gonna be hit with another kill and nearly gets traded out, but Kimmy's gonna get peeled away. You can't do the same thing with Apollo, though. He's gonna come through the skies, picks up that kill, but Kimmy's gonna get traded out. Renjaru here all by himself. Scratch that. Chronic's here with the descent into madness, and Big Yuji could be in some trouble. Double dash is gonna be good, but dashing forward as well is Renjaru. Aquarius trying to peel away, but now he's the one in trouble, pissing Moonlight already down. So is the 2, and there's going to be the ultimate, and beads are available for Aquarius. The damage not quite there from Oceans.
That's just that value that Renjaru is able to bring the team, that global presence to make sure that these fights are always going to be in their favor for the Order side, always turning into a 4 versus 3 or a 5 versus 4. Jingwei, BennyQ just cannot match that rotational power. Instead, though, is able to shove a couple of waves in a tower, is going to create a little bit more so that lead, trying to split himself from Renjaru. Catching up, in fact, in levels is the Jingwei. Both ADCs now approaching level 12, got their second relics available to them as well. But Renjaru trades out his beads. We might see some sparks fly if that's communicated well.
Potentially. Renjaru gonna be a target for Gamma potentially here. Aquarius as well can take advantage of that, especially with cancel that. Aegis is available. Just gone back to base, hit 12, picked up that second relic. So, I mean, Aquarius probably not looking to make the rotation all the way over to the left-hand side anyway, so bit of a situation, but he'll be just fine. Nehu takes a little bit of damage in the mid lane, but I don't think there are going to be any fights, major fights anyway, coming out soon.
No, potentially around this gold tree if the Greater Scorpion does go down, I'd expect Winter Dogs to be trying to pick their fights over on that duo side so they don't have to deal with that rotation power that Apollo's affording them. You don't want to fight on the right-hand side just because you're always going to be outnumbered if Renjaru has that ultimate available. Instead, pick your fights where you know you'll have even footing around this duo lane, around BennyQ on this Jingwei. Fishies look like they're trying to set up a little bit of an ambush here. They've got complete vision advantage, so they know Winter Dogs are nowhere to be seen. Instead, the Chaos team is much happier just backing up, going back to farm, and seeing what they can do.
They have the perfect comp for it as well. On the left-hand side, Renjaru in some danger, gets hit by the Nemesis ult. Protections are going to be low for him, but able to use that mez to keep the rest of the team away, and buys just enough time for Kimmy to come in and join the fight. Big Yuji Ishtow's from a while back. Gonna walk into the tower and get hit by that shot. Down falls the Nemesis. BennyQ getting zoned out here, and now Nehu taking the time to transform up into the Nemesis, hits Gamma with the Prot Shred ultimate, blinking forward, trying to get away, but through the sky, the return of Renjaru. Crimson, no way to escape this time around. Bird Brain, down he falls, and now Scorpion should be forfeit.
Winter Dogs is going way too deep on that dive there, essentially walking all the way up to the tier 1 tower. Look, it takes a long time to walk to dual lane, I understand that. You think you have the time to make these rotations, but all it does is allow the Fishies a little bit more time to rotate in themselves. Once Kirmi shows up, that fight is essentially forfeit. Winter Dogs have to drag their entire team out of position just for the off chance of healing. Results in Crimson going down, Gamma takes a tumble nearly, Yuji struggles to find his footing as well. You have to get these kills much faster or be willing to peel off of these situations, because if you overcommit in situations like that, we've seen what happens. Greater Scorpion goes down, Fishies pick up a couple kills, and with the gold lead that they're already afforded, they can at least try and force an engagement on the POI.
Absolutely, and I mean, overcommitting is the word of the day. Big Yuji uses that ultimate on Renjaru very early, before he's used the Mez, before he's used the dash, and that's exactly what happens. Renjaru just Mezes Big Yuji, dashes away, and then Big Yuji then has to commit more of his kit to try and catch up with him. Benny's too far away, and then he just gets out for free, and it's a very sad moment for all. And now with that Scorpion down, as you said, the Gold Fury is looking very tasty.
Sure is. Ocean's isolated here. Can't really get too aggressive. Doesn't want to dash in, does Crimson, losing out on his beads likely to Ocean's ultimate instead. Has to play it incredibly safe. Gamma now going to be forced to use the ultimate himself for CC immunity. That's a good trade. Ocean's not getting a ton of value.
For sure, yeah. Gamma ults in as well, giving Winter Dogs a lot of space control. Aquarius has come in to join the fight, still here, 2 levels above. Once again, his counterpart, Chronic, still level 14 and just about towards the mid lane. Winter Dogs now take that space that they've just been afforded, and they're going to back up and look to potentially bait the Gold Fury here. Oceans could be in some trouble, gets hit with the Nemesis Assault from downtown. Final Judgment hits its mark. Down falls Oceans, and now Neu should be the next target here, already falling down low, but in the backside of the Fishies, Chronic is here as well somehow. Kimmy jumping up into the sky is going to find the first kill. Crimson falls down. Gamma's going to be the next one to find his grave. Chronic very, very low, and it looks like the blink forward from the jungle is going to be good. Neu takes a spill here to Big Yuji. Benny Q has to ult away, and Aquarius finds a kill of his own. Now all members left on the map are low HP. Scratch that. 2 members of Fishies, the dual lane, are still pretty good. Yuji, though, sees the rotation incoming from Renjaru and dashes under the tower.
Fishies go for the huge flank there, have Kirimi and Chronic both working their way all the way around the Gold Fury, trying to catch Winter Dogs out on their aggressive pathing, but instead, that flank took way too long. It could have been a much cleaner fight had they just walked the normal way. Winter Dogs spearhead their way into the back line of the Fishies and pick up a couple of kills. At the end of the day, though, it's going to be a net gain wash for both teams. Fishies don't really gain too much there off of getting a 3-for-2 trade. 9 and 8 remains the slash line. We're still looking at about 200 gold separating these two squads 16 minutes in, and Gold Fury remains standing as well. We're going to see that exact same fight run back very soon once both these teams have to regroup around the gold.
How do Winter Dogs secure that fight a little bit easier, though? Because they definitely came up ahead in the start there, but it kind of fell apart for them, Mifflin.
It's just leaving Crimson alone, isolated. He uses the dash to separate himself from the Cthulhu once he goes into Ascent into Madness, and he's left alone. Allows Renjaru to find an easy dunk. No reason for Apollo not to take the 1v1 up against a Thoth who doesn't have his dash available to him. From there, Renjaru is allowed to do whatever he wants inside the engagement. This Apollo has been getting everything he needs. He goes into a fight, drops low, maybe picks up a kill, goes back to base, and then rejoins his team via ultimate. Winter Dogs really need to either shut down Renjaru early on, or take these small wins, get their picks, and then immediately disengage. But it's been these overcommitments. Where did Winter Dogs lose that team fight? 80 miles deep into the Fishy side of the jungle.
That's fair. We did see Big Yuji sitting between the tier 2 tower trying to clear out that wave so that he could back. Didn't have the time and the end. And now both of these teams looking once again to group up towards the left-hand side. Renjaru and Kimmy potentially looking to catch out Benny Q, but the Fishies sense a bit of an imbalance in terms of members over here towards the side of the map. They're already looking to move towards the Gold Fury. Vision has been won by them. Big Yuji steps forward, but isn't going to get hit by the chain. It's going to be big potentially for Oceans. He's got to hit those if they're going to be able to win these fights.
Both teams have just about every relic available. Both teams have every ultimate available as well, but only one has the defensive positioning. Gold Fury dropped a half and then immediately reset as Chronic goes into his ultimate.
And this is a good start. Winter Dogs just have to not overcommit here and let it play out. And Gamma on the left-hand side getting ulted hit by Neu, who's transformed into the Nemesis. Up in the sky is still Apollo. Around Crimson once again all the way from downtown. It's the final judgment. Downfalls Oceans. Aquarius takes a spill by himself, though, as well. But this time, Winter Dogs in a better position for this fight. Kimmy already takes a spill. Around Crimson, no one to deal with. And Neu all here by himself. The stealth is discovered by Gamma, and now he's in trouble. Downfalls Neu. Health bars are low here, though, still. Renjaru still on that spot. Dashing in, Crimson, what are you doing? Where's the rest of your team? Beats and Aegis are popped. But it's the Zapman relics. He's already dead. He just uses them anyway. Downfalls Crimson, and now Fishies are safe because Winter Dogs can't do the Gold Fury.
Yeah, that was much better than going for the Gold Fury. Crimson had the horse blinders on, saw a low Cthulhu, and wasn't thinking about his surroundings. Immediately forfeits a hard-fought battle. That was 3 team fights back-to-back that finally results in a clean enough win that somebody might have been able to take the neutral objective. Immediately thrown away by the mid laner of the Chaos side team. Crimson, feeling himself a little bit too much off a couple of kills in that fight, forfeits his own life.
It's just a shame. I think he was 1-5 before that fight happened there, and I think finally he was like, okay guys, I've got the momentum, we're gonna go, I'm gonna get this kill, it'll be great, I'll be a hero, you'll give me a badge, it'll be fantastic. Dashes in, gets absolutely dunked on by Renjaru, and well, the rest we've already talked about. No Gold Fury now for the Winter Dogs, but once again trying to apply pressure to the left-hand side. Gamma makes his rotation over, but Mifflin, are we just doomed to see these two teams fight over Gold Fury for the rest of time?
Hey, you know what? It's not really doomed, is it? I'm kind of enjoying these fights. They're so hard to predict. Everything's kind of going a little bit wonky, but it is going to be the Chaos team starting up Gold Fury this time around. Last time it was the Fishies setting up the defensive positioning. Yuji trying to create a little bit of space, but it's actually going to be a reset as Oceans finds the chains. Let's continue the dance, boys. Fishies trying to reestablish the defensive positioning. Oceans working his way forward, but no wards available.
Aquarius in some trouble here, already had to beads. Chronic dashes forward, trying to find it, and now Nehu's the one transforming. Piercing Moonlight gonna be followed up by the Descent into Madness, and look up into the sky. Here comes Apollo. Big Yuji already takes a spill at the start of the fight, and Piercing Moonlight is gonna come in from the real Aquarius this time around. No kill for him, though. He's instead gonna find himself a grave alongside his mid laner, who gets taken out by the ADC. Meanwhile, Gamma in the backline does find one in trade. Nehu takes a fall there, but Renjaru dashing forward. Chain is going to be good onto Gamma. He's crippled now for 15 seconds, remember? But the healing is good. Not good enough, though. He's going to take a spill, and finally, 4 kills for 1. Fishies are able to close out the fight, and 21 minutes into the game, claim first Fury.
Yeah, that was a legitimate 7 or maybe 8-minute dance around the Gold Fury that finally results in 900 experience and 1,200 gold in favor of the Order side team. 22 minutes of the game, not the biggest deal, as a little bit of skirmish over here in the duo lane. Both ADCs electing to get a little bit of crit. Benny Q from his second ability, and Apollo from his build Rage already fully stacked up. I want to see the Order side teams to regroup around this Fire Giant, force another engagement, make use of this Apollo going the crit build. Should be able to shred through Greater Scorpion, Pyromancer, even Fire Giant itself relatively quickly.
For sure. Dead even for all intents and purposes. As you said, about a grand, about 1,000, 2,000 gold at this stage of the game is absolutely nothing. In realistic terms, you know, in terms that you can touch with your hands, there is next to nothing between these two teams. So it's all going to be down, in my opinion, to the next team fight, or the next 5 team fights if they keep going the way they're going. But either way, Mifflin, I think we might be in for a long one here.
Yeah, they have to clear out this Greater Scorpion sooner than later. Even if either team wins a team fight from here, they won't be able to confirm too much off of it. At most, maybe a tier 1 tower if Winter Dogs wins a fight, maybe a tier 2 if they win the fight cleanly. But as of right now, there are no neutral objectives to fight over. There's nothing to force these teams to group up on the map. Finally, Kirmi starts to make his rotation over towards the Fire Giant, clears it out himself, the Greater Scorpion, and there's going to create a POI. Winter Dogs are going to have to respond to this aggression from the Fishies.
Fire Giant and Pyromancer sporting now in 1 minute, thanks to the death of that Scorpion. Winter Dogs in a bit of an interesting position here. Crimson needs to be more defended than he currently is. You've talked about it, I've talked about it, but I think that's the big thing here for the Winter Dogs, right?
It is. The Winter Dogs have so much they could do here, but I need to see Aquarius close gap onto Nehu. I need to see Big Yuji trying to counter out some of these Ascent into Madnesses with Retribution. We haven't seen a full Winter Dogs turn on this Cthulhu once he uses that ultimate, especially considering Chronic has been starting up these fights isolated for the most part. Blinks in on his own and immediately goes to the ult in hopes that the rest of his team can regroup around him. Just use Retribution, strip his defense, and murder that man.
He's not very tanky either, really. Only one defense item either way. Ocean's getting blinked onto there. The Retribution's going to be good, and he's going to fall down before he has much time to react. Oh my goodness,
what?
Neu, where did you go? He just evaporated, and now the rest of the Fishies are forced to crumble and slink away as the tier 2 in mid falls. Tier 2 in left should be trade here from the Apollo, and now Big Yuji looking to back to make sure that he doesn't finish anything off. Actually, cancel that. They've just spotted Apollo backing. They've decided that they want to commit on this. Phoenix half health already. Chronic linking forward. There's the descent into madness. If we're going to see a full turn, now will be it. But the Thorns should be able to keep Chronic safe for now. Winter Dogs having some decent patience. Are going to get 5-man knocked up, but they'll be just fine. Fishies in no position to defend. And off the back of finally a good engage from Winter Dogs, a Phoenix will fall.
It don't make any sense, Blazy. They were down there. They just lost the team fight 3 times in a row. And the Gold Fury, they said, all right, whatever. Let's group up as 5. And it just works for them. They walk into a tier 1 tower, strip that one away, a couple of lives from the opposition as well, and pick up a Phoenix. It's so hard to predict when these teams are going to go for these plays. What makes them think that that's an ideal situation to look for a tier 2 tower? Crazy to think about. Renjaru, so slow on the rotation as well. Doesn't have the ultimate available. Can't rejoin his team, which could likely be why Winter Dogs do go for that aggressive play, and they close up the gold lead pretty substantially. Now only 2,000 separating these two teams 25 minutes in. Winter Dogs looking incredibly confident. They now know they can kill just about anyone on the map. If you can immediately kill Oceans off of Fearless, you can kill anyone off of Fearless with Retribution. Pyromancer getting started up by the Chaos team.
5 ultimates and 9 out of 10 relics available, and the 10th one will be up in 5. Winter Dogs are looking in a very comfortable position right about now once everyone gets to grouping up, although they are forced away from the Pyromancer, and it will be taken here by the Fishies, but it's going to set them up for a decent engagement. Chronic already falling down to half of his HP, but Ocean's pulling 1. Chronic still in some trouble here. Jumping forward now is the tank. Gamma could be taking a lot of damage, but the tanks from both sides are just not really doing much. Meanwhile, in the back, Crimson is already dead. Chronic is still alive. Okay, finally takes a spill there. Benny Q with a double takes out both the tanks 2 for 1. Gamma in some trouble here. Neu has just revealed his position. Is going to get cleaned up by Big Yuji. But that was such a weird fight, Mifflin.
Yeah, natural and common Smite knowledge be damned. Somehow Benny Q finds himself behind the entirety of Fishies on his own and lands actually 30 auto attacks into Cthulhu before the man even turns around. Now Aquarius in a little bit of trouble, gets spotted out by Kirimi, dropped down to about 1/10 HP. Is going to be forced to reset here. They've done enough, the Fishies, to dissuade this Fire Giant push from the Winter Dogs. Crazy situations. These team fights are so hard to read because it's so unnatural for the state of the game. How does a Jing Wei end up behind the entirety of the Fishies and nobody turns to look at him?
No idea. The other big thing about that is once again, Crimson was left all by his lonesome in the backline and gets cleaned up, of course, by Kimmy, who finds him and goes, oh wow, a free Thoth. Delicious. I will eat that. Yes, please. Thank you. I was actually really looking forward to some Thoth steak. Kimmy steps up to try and stop this Fire Giant from being done. Has to use his ultimate for his troubles. Meanwhile, the Winter Dogs really uncontested here. Oceans could be in some trouble piercing Moonlight. Meanwhile, on the backside, though, Winter Dogs are going to be able to pick up that Fire Giant. Aquarius could get turned on here, though. Oh, Neu doing a lot of damage. Chronic and Neu both up into these Cthulhu forms. That's going to be 1 for the mid laner. Down falls Aquarius, but the mid laner is going to find Renjaru. Absolute max range. No setup. Bye. Mr. ADC Crimson going to stay alive through this fight. Big Yuji finds Neu, and now towards the mid lane they go, blinking forward, looking for Kirmi, but I don't think Gamma's gonna find him. Instead, maybe this pressure would have been better used towards the right-hand side, where there's still a tower up and raring to be taken.
Winter Dogs win 2 team fights in a row off of poor engages from the Ares Oceans. Going in on his own, pulling 1 member in the first engagement, 2 in the second, but no follow-ups to be had. Forces his team to step up to try and peel out for their Ares and cost them their lives. Nehu and Rajaru paying the iron price for their support and losing out on a tier 2 tower as well. Mid Phoenix has spawned, but 4 members of Winter Dogs have their eyes on a bigger goal. Right side Phoenix getting contested.
Not just the right tier 2, Mifflin, but I think I can speak for everyone and say this right side Phoenix is gonna fall down as well. There it is. Crimson, though, once again might be in some trouble, but here, using that ultimate, Kimmy is looking for him. Down from the sky comes Renjaro. The peel is finally there. Crimson staying alive for now thanks to Gamma. The healing is gonna be good from him. Meanwhile, the rest of both teams are just kind of splintering, scattering, looking for something. Renjaro is gonna get 3v1 in the jungle there, backs himself up into a corner. Another really weird fight.
Yeah, Renjaro dunks down deep, misses 5 auto attacks, and so beautiful. So Crimson walks out of that situation absolutely for free. Fantastic peel from Gamma creates a situation in which Renjaro goes down with no opposition. Mid Phoenix already weakened from falling earlier on. Winter Dogs might as well try and strip that one away. Nehu forced to use the stealth here. It's an interesting push. Crimson, why are you at the door, bud? Go help your team.
This is, again, so confusing. Yuji wraps around big, trying to bite at Nehu's ankles, and looks like he's gonna get punished for it. All here by himself, ults Nehu. The mid Phoenix is still standing. Benny is trying to find it all by himself, but he's getting 2v1 by the tanks. He should be okay for now, but Nehu's raining down hell on the rest of the team. Crimson finally is able to find 1 in favor of the Winter Dogs, but now the push forward hit from Fishies. Kimmy's right on top of Crimson. No peel this time around. Benny Q, though, is able to finally find the tank, but Nehu's gonna find a return kill for that. Aquarius also takes a spill, and now Gamma's the only one left alive. Mifflin, what is happening?
Hey, 2 Phoenixes and Fire Giant, yeah, fair trade, all right? They're not going to be able to end the game, the Fishies, that is, so you've essentially done all you need if you're on the side of the Winter Dogs. They can reset Gamma and no threat of dying here. At best, the Fishies can strip away a tier 2 tower, if even that, but they're contending with Fireman Waves leaking down the right and center lanes of the map. Winter Dogs have done just enough with that Fire Giant for me to call it value. Here's the consolation prize. Killed 4 of them. Enjoy your Primal Fury.
Dude, I didn't even realize they took the mid Phoenix. That's how long it took them to kill it. It was already at like a third of the HP, and I don't think it died until the very end of that fight. It was just such a weird... Okay, all right, Mifflin, I think I've figured it out. All right, I've just had an absolute lightning bolt of an idea going through my brain. I think... All right, here's a prediction for you, Mifflin. I think Winter Dogs might be having some trouble with their target priority.
I think you've kind of nailed it there, and the target priority should have been that Phoenix. If you want to harken back, I was letting my boy Crimson know, maybe go help out that team inside that central burn. Instead, though, it felt like Winter Dogs kind of lost the thread. What are we here for? Why did we show up to their base? It's to strip away these objectives. Instead, though, it was a hovering fight around that door on the right-hand side, maybe fighting just outside the Phoenix as well. Eventually, the tanks, Gamma and Aquarius, walk up and say, hey, guys, Phoenix is like maybe 300 HP. We're just going to auto-attack this for a couple of seconds and pick it up for their squad. But you have to imagine, had Winter Dogs played it a little bit cleaner, they would have been able to pick up the Phoenix, walk away safely, and then rejoin the team on the left side, strip away a tier 2 tower. Instead, though, we're going to go by that results-based analysis. They do take down the bird, they do get the map pressure, and now they've got the defensive positioning around the Fire Giant as well.
Which should be coming up in just a couple seconds here. Pyromancer already taken down by the Winter Dogs. It's going to give them a little bit of a quicker time getting back into the fight. Should they find their end, or should they find themselves having to retreat back up to the base? But with 2 sets of fire waves coming down here, is it a good idea for Fishies to even step up to defend?
I have to imagine what's going through the Fishies' mind is, if we lose this Fire Giant, we lose the game. I think they have to step up and defend here just because of what dire situation they've already found themselves in. Potentially even trying to attempt for the steal, but Gamma doing such a good job separating the backline. Fire Giant burning incredibly slowly. BennyQ left on his own, isolated. Where's the squad? Why aren't you grouped? BennyQ falls to Kirby for free!
Neo, once again, transforming up into that descent into madness. Aquarius playing ping pong with his body, jumping between every single member of the team. And now Winter Dogs are dismantled one by one. Look at the health bars. Crimson now left all by himself. Beats are already popped. There's the Aegis trying to find his way out, and he is going to be able to find the dash, but the damage might catch up with him here. Oceans are still running forward. Crimson still looking for that second dash. There it is. He is going to be able to find the space and get out just fine alongside Gamma, the only man left on the team alongside his mid laner. Luckily for the Winter Dogs, they will still get the retreat on the Phoenix on the right-hand side, but Fishies now are going to probably get this Fire Giant for free, and this time it's enhanced.
I thought the Fishies would at least try and go for an end there. They had so much time to work with, as well as look at their HP bars. Pretty healthy still. 20 seconds left on Aquarius and Big Yuji. Benny-Q in the next 2 seconds, and Gamma, the only one showing presence here. He's going for the steal! What?
No way! He got it with that! What? Gamma walks away with an EFG, not only for himself, but for his mid laner and for his ADC. Meanwhile, Fishies take so much to try and claw their way back into this. They lose a Phoenix for that fight. They lose... Who did they lose? They lost someone in that fight, I forget. But they lose the Fire Giant as well. That is absolutely heartbreaking for this blue side roster.
Okay, so that was defense stance tier. Let's take a peek at his build. The only item giving him any semblance of power are tank boots. My man's defense stance fearless, likely hitting for around 120 damage on neutral objectives. He steals it away from Nehu, who's slamming for 800 with his first ability. Ocean's gonna out-confirm him with chains if he so chose. Chronic, Cure Me, Renjaru, Vampiric Bout, Screech, all abilities that deal more damage than the fearless from tier. My man walked in, took away the Fire Giant like a bandit in the night, and then faded into mist. Now, 3 members on the side of Winter Dogs rocking the enhanced Fire Giant on their belt. Only 2 Phoenixes left standing between them and the exposed base of the Fishies, and one of them has been permanently hobbled. That mid Phoenix, that's as healthy as it's gonna get.
And, like, it's not even just the tanks, right? It's one thing if Aquarius and Gamma and, like, Yuji walk away with that EFG, right? But they got it on Benny himself. That means these Phoenixes are going to stand not a hope in hell. So much so that Fishies are going on the aggressive, pulling her up. Crimson is Oceans, but this time around, everyone's too far in the back line to try and deal with the burn, so he's going to be just fine. Aquarius, however, is going to be able to take down Chronic. He's going to fall down, and Neu has already expended his ultimate. Kimmy as well could be in some trouble as Aquarius picks up a second kill for himself. Renjaru gets taken down by the ultimate from Erupt Crimson. Neu as well finally takes a spill, and Oceans should be pretty fine. He's pretty tanky, but Fishies,
yeah, they got it, Blazy. Yeah, don't worry about it. You know, Titan's gonna fall. The Oceans, yeah, double kill, big stuff. Aquarius gonna auto attack down the Titan a couple more times. I gotta say it, man. Oceans finds the pull onto Crimson into his own Phoenix with the rest of his team again with the horse blindness. Can't see anything in their peripheral. Walks straight past the Thoth to lose a fight in the enemy backline. Turn and kill the mage. That's an ideal situation. How many times are you gonna be able to pull? Whatever, bro. Desk, I don't know, man. Whatever, bro.
I don't like every single fight. Crimson is left by himself in the back line, right? They have to expend effort to go and find him and then kill him. And the one time he's brought to them for free, he gets it fine. Listen, Mifflin, I can't right now, so I'm gonna let somebody else talk about what we just witnessed. Ladies and gents, we're gonna go to a quick break, and when we get back, we'll talk about what just happened in that game.
Hey, excuse me, guys. Here I am with
There
you
it
now,
is.
back. Gore, I can't exactly call that one clean, but they got the 2-0, right? Winter Dogs managed to find that one. They do manage to get the win. And, I don't know, I find it a little bit tough that Crimson gets the dub there, too. My man takes the thought into the Ares, and then just takes the Ares pain, exactly as we assumed would happen, dies 10 times, but still managed to get a bunch of really big ults anyway. Gore, what was your read on how this one manages to close out?
Very similar to what you had just said, where you get Crimson kind of like he sees this Ares locked in, says, "All right, bet," locks in the Thoth, still ends up having a decent performance after that first few minutes, right? Like he gets abused for a little while, and then his team starts to really flourish. This one, as weird as it is, because he's not on the original roster for this team, kind of feels like a Benny Q story, right? Like, I mean, it feels like there was a lot around him, especially early on, that really made the difference. I think him and Gamma working together over here in this duo lane just was solid, right? You finally get to see a little bit of what this tier can do in hands that are not just Awesome Jake. Like, we've seen him do it, and we've seen him do it really well, and it's nice to see that kind of, again, spread down into the SCC here. Gamma with a beautiful steal as well. Like, at that moment, like I think you and Dave were like having a conversation. I literally just interrupted it to go like, Gamma, no, because it just blew my mind to see it. Yeah, and Benny Q, because of all this beautiful setup, is able to just have a glorious game on this Jing Wei. Again, I think going back to what we said during picks and bans, kind of showcasing that, yeah, she's still good, right? Like, there's no reason not to pick her unless you're really just favoring your Apollo a little bit more, maybe Chernobog a little bit more. But she is absolutely going to have a home throughout the league, and I expect that we're going to see her a lot this year unless something drastically changes.
Yeah, this is a great effort for Winter Dogs kind of all around. I mean, obviously, Aqua kept on playing well. UT, I think, was pretty instrumental to this W as well, even if it didn't always maybe result in these big highlight plays. Those retributions, dropping those ultimates were pretty clean here for him. So, I mean, this is a great performance from Winter Dogs. And Fishies, even up against the Winter Dogs, it maybe wasn't even at their full strength. They didn't have Andy this entire set. They had UT moving over to jungle and Benny Q stepping up into that ADC role for them. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's a great look for you, Fishies, to struggle with this 2-0 when they weren't even with this main roster. This is a strong team, obviously, with a lot of talent. They've gotten some wins before, but just wasn't quite their week here this time around.
Yeah. Kirmi, though, still had a really, really solid performance, like a lot of damage that comes out. Again, like you said, though, it's just an unfortunate scenario. I would actually argue, as much as it might be rough for them, a really good benefit for Benny Q. Like, again, someone who's coming in as like a sub, it's one of those things like, oh yeah, I remember that Benny Q's just really good in the SCC. It makes sense. And guess what? He shows up, he plays well, and now he can probably take his hands off and back off if he wants to. He can just relax for a little bit, assuming that Andy gets to come back next week.
Yeah, great performance from him. Let's go ahead and take a look then at the current standings. It's Sturdy Artisans up there at the top. Fishies at 1-1 after this loss they just had. And Average Joes are 0-2. But you might see there's two teams that still have not played. The Hoofs and Tiburones still need to play. We'll see if the Herculean Hoofs can get a dub on the board, or if we'll have one more 2-0 team up there at the top alongside the Sturdy Artisans. That will be our next match that will be coming up just a little bit later once we're done here breaking down this one. Looking like we're right on schedule, too. 2:30 start time for that. That's what we're hitting. Nice job with that one there in the back. Gore, talk to me a little bit more, though, about this North American region just in general, because they have been impressive to me. This isn't exactly how I thought the standings are going to go. Sino's playing ESET jungle and just making it work. It kind of seems like it's the Wild West out here right now.
I think we are in for a very, just contested standings. Pretty much, we've been talking about it a little bit last week, and you're going to hear us hit this point the more and the closer we get to the end of Phase 1. But the top two spots are what matters the most here,
right?
And that's what these teams are fighting for. I think there's a good chance we get to those last few weeks, and we still aren't entirely sure who will take those top two spots.
It's absolutely up in the air. All I can recommend is that you don't go anywhere when the SCC is on. That includes now. It'll be a real quick break, and then we'll be right back with more sets that's coming on. Only one more to go, then we'll close out the day.